Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise, find the really important insights and all that complex information out there. And today, we're doing just that. We're diving deep into CRISIL Limited's recent Q2 2025 financial results. They're a real leader in analytics and insights.
Absolutely. And our mission for you today is pretty straightforward. Help you get up to speed quickly on how Crystal's been doing. We've sifted through, well, their corporate presentation, the official press releases, board meeting outcomes, all of it. Basically, we're here to break down the jargon, unpack the numbers so you get the key takeaways. It's about understanding this major player at, frankly, a pretty pivotal time for the global economy.
That sets the stage perfectly. So, okay, when we unpack these numbers, we're looking at CRISIL's performance for the quarter ending June 30, 2025, and all the official documents that came out on July 22, 2025. So, yeah, this is fresh data we're working with.
Right. Let's maybe start with the overall financial picture, because it paints, well, a remarkably resilient portrait for CRISIL. For Q2 2025, their consolidated income from operations, it saw a solid 5.7% increase year on year, came in at 843.0 crore rupees.
Okay, 5.7% top-line growth, that's strong. But what about profitability? I mean, how did that translate down the line?
Good question. Well, profit before tax, PBT, that jumped an impressive 8.2%, reaching 225.0 crore rupees. But here's something interesting. The profit after tax, PBT, it saw an even bigger surge, up 14.3% to 171.6 crore rupees.
Oh, 14.3%. So PP grew faster than PBT. What does that usually tell us?
Well, often that suggests, really disciplined cost management or maybe favorable tax situations. Basically, it means a larger chunk of their revenue made it straight to the bottom line. It speaks volumes about their operational efficiency, I think.
That's a great point. And, to really appreciate that quarterly growth, it probably helps to see the bigger picture. What about the half-year figures? Do they show the same kind of trend?
They do, yes. For the first half of 2025, consolidated income from operations was up 7.9%. That's 1,656.2 crore rupees. PBT rose 12.1% to 452.4 crore. And PPT, that increased by, again, an impressive 15.1% to 331.4 crore. So, yeah, the trend is pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Quarter, half year, it shows sustained momentum.
Okay, so strong growth, efficient profits. And beyond that, it's worth noting how they're rewarding investors, right? The dividend.
Exactly. They declared an interim dividend of 9 rupees per share. That's up from 8 rupees in the same quarter last year, and it's payable August 8th, 2025. So, yeah, a very clear commitment to returning value directly to shareholders.
Right, and the strong performances, it seems to tie in with what their managing director and CEO, Amish Mehta, was saying.
It does. He specifically highlighted, and I'm quoting here, the Indian economy's strength in the face of global uncertainties. And he pointed to CRISIL's own resilience, attributing it to their strong foundation and diversified portfolio.
And he also mentioned strategic investments, didn't he? Something about technology and talent being key.
Yes, exactly. He emphasized strategic investments in technology and talent as being crucial for navigating, this complex landscape, and also for capitalizing on emerging opportunities. That theme of adaptive resilience, I think we'll see it pop up again as we look deeper.
Okay, so that's the internal picture, strong foundation, strategic investments. But how does CRISIL navigate the broader economic currents?
Right, the external environment. Well, globally, growth is actually expected to slow down a bit. Forecast is 2.9% for 2025, with weaker performance expected in places like the US and China. So for a global company like CRISIL, you have to ask, how do these cross-currents impact things?
That is the big question. But for India specifically, CRISIL's outlook seems, well, a little more positive.
It is. They expect India's GDP to hold up pretty well, around 6.5% in fiscal 2026. But they do flag potential downside risks, things like possible U.S. tariff moves, and just the general slowdown in global economic activity. So it's definitely nuanced. Global caution, but relative domestic strength.
Okay, and how does this sort of split outlook play out for CRISIL's clients?
Well, for their global clients, they're seeing banks being a bit more cautious, particularly with discretionary spending, which means for CRISIL, longer lead times in deal closures. Things take a bit longer. But, and this is key, these same clients are still investing heavily, especially in digital transformation initiatives and AI. And asset managers, they're focusing on private markets and client experience solutions. So it's more of a shift in focus, not a complete stop.
That makes sense. So global clients are maybe more selective, but still pushing innovation. What about the Indian market side?
In India, CRISIL sees likely traction in corporate bond issuances. They think easing monetary policy will help drive that.
Mm.
And they actually reported significant growth there, 62% year on year in corporate bond issuances for Q2 2025.
Wow, 62%. That sounds huge. But you mentioned a low base caveat earlier. Does that kind of temper the excitement a bit?
It's an important point, yeah. While 62% growth is definitely strong, it was coming off a relatively lower starting point from the previous year. So the momentum is good, but the market's still building volume, you could say. And this contrasts a bit with bank credit, where there's been some growth moderation. It was down to 9% year on year in May 2025 compared to 16.2% back in May 2024, affecting both wholesale and retail.
Right. And then there are the broader economic indicators like inflation dropping.
Exactly. CPI-based inflation, consumer prices, dropped to 2.1% in June. That's the lowest it's been since, wow, February 2019. And that's crucial because lower inflation gives the central bank, the RBI, more room to potentially cut rates, stimulate growth.
So what has the Reserve Bank of India been doing, and how does that feed into this?
Well, their recent moves like repo rate cuts and reducing the cash reserve ratio, the CRR, they're clearly aimed at boosting growth and making sure there's enough liquidity in the system. And it comes at a time when India's financial health generally looks, well, much better. Think about gross non-performing assets MPAs, basically bad loans. In the banking sector, they've fallen dramatically, from 8.4% in FY20 down to just 2.3% in FY25. And the projection for FY26 is even lower, maybe 2.1 to 2.2%.
That's a huge improvement. Healthier banks mean a better lending environment, presumably?
Precisely. Plus, you've got healthy growth in India's mutual fund AUM assets under management. So you put all these pieces together. It's a complex environment, sure, but also quite dynamic for a company like CRISIL.
Okay, so that sets the scene. Complex macro trends, both global headwinds and domestic bright spots. How does this actually filter down into CRISIL's specific business units? Let's maybe peel back the layers there, starting with rating services. That's kind of their backbone, right?
It really is. And CRISIL ratings, well, they continue to strengthen their leadership in corporate bond ratings. That's a core area. And they're also actively driving growth in bank loan ratings, too. It shows their established expertise is still very much in demand.
And the numbers reflect that strength, don't they?
They certainly do. Revenue for ratings grew 15.7% year on year in Q2. Pretty impressive. Their segment income from operations was up 18.0% to 250.7 crore rupees, and segment profit climbed 18.6% to 102.6 crore. The margin stayed really robust at 40.9%.
Wow, a 40.9% margin in a core service like ratings. That really speaks to their market position and efficiency, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It indicates strong pricing power and efficient operations in that segment. And we also learned their Global Analytics Center, the GAC, which is sort of their engine for advanced data work, saw growth too, driven by new engagements from S&P Global.
S&P Global, their majority owner. So that connection is yielding results.
Seems so. It signals good internal collaboration and synergy, which is always positive.
Okay, let's shift gears then to the Research, Analytics, and Solutions segment. This one showed resilience, you said, even with global clients tighten their belts a bit.
That's right. Despite that pullback on discretionary spending globally, this segment held up. It suggests they're adapting, finding ways to deliver value that clients still prioritize.
So what specific areas showed momentum there? Where are they still winning business?
Well, they highlighted wins in areas like buy-side, data analytics, credit and risk solutions, and benchmarking offerings. So quite diverse areas, actually. Financially, income from operations grew just 1.3%, came in at 592.3 crore rupees for Q2. Segment profit did see a slight dip, down 2.9% to 118.8 crore. That resulted in a margin of 20.1%. But honestly, given the global pressures, assuring any growth and maintaining that kind of resilience is pretty notable, I'd say.
Yeah, context is key there. And it's worth mentioning, both their global businesses in this segment, CRISIL Integral IQ and CRISIL Coalition Greenwich, they both added new clients, new logos during the quarter.
Correct. CRISIL Integral IQ focuses on integrated intelligence, and CRISIL Coalition Greenwich is known for its financial services insights. Both brought in new business.
So stepping back, what does all this segment performance tell us about CRISIL's overall direction, or maybe their brand?
Well, I think it strongly reinforces their new brand identity. They're positioning themselves as a global insights-driven analytics organization, and the goal seems to be offering a more consistent and more connected experience for clients around the world, trying to unify all these different strengths under one umbrella.
Makes sense. Now, beyond the financials and segment details, we know CRISIL is focused on strategic growth, investing in technology and talent, like the CEO said.
Yeah.
Is there a concrete example of that investment strategy in action recently?
Yes, actually. There was a notable strategic acquisition on June 4th, 2025. CRISIL acquired a 4.08% stake in a company called Online PSB Loans Limited.
Online PSB Loans Limited. Okay, what's the significance of that particular investment? It seems quite specific.
It does. It likely signals CRISIL's interest in, well, either using their analytics muscle in new fintech partnerships or maybe gaining a foothold in the digital lending space, especially concerning public sector banks, the PSB part. It looks like a calculated move to kind of expand their reach within that evolving digital financial ecosystem in India.
Interesting. So strategic bets on future growth areas. And it's not just about acquisitions, right? Their industry recognition seems pretty stellar, too.
Oh, absolutely. Internally, they were certified as a great place to work in India for the 5th year running, and also named one of India's best workplaces for women 2024. That says a lot about their culture.
Definitely important for attracting and keeping talent. And externally, what about recognition for their actual analytics work?
That's where it gets really impressive. They picked up significant Chartis awards. For instance, they were featured in the prestigious RiskTech 100 2025 list, and for the 3rd year in a row, they won the Model Validation category. Plus, they were named a category leader in use of AI for commercial banking-related workflow in the Chartis RiskTech AI 50 2025. All told, they received something like 14 recognitions from just 4 Chartis assessments in the first half of 2025 alone.
14. That's a lot of awards. What does that really signify for CRISIL and, more importantly, for their clients?
Well, it directly demonstrates their analytical rigor and domain expertise, doesn't it? It shows they have the chops. And that translates directly into empowering their clients to make those really critical, sometimes difficult decisions. These awards aren't just shelf fillers. They validate the quality and reliability of CRISIL's insights, especially in complex fields like risk management and AI.
Right. Validation is key. And they seem very active in thought leadership, too, trying to shape the conversation in the industry.
Very active. You see it in events like the CRISIL Ratings 3rd Annual Infrastructure Summit. They focused on key sectors, real estate, renewables, roads. And CRISIL Integral IQ held a roundtable over in New York discussing reimagining private markets and asset servicing.
So they're tackling the big topics. And their published work seems to cover a huge range as well.
It really does. Everything from private equity, debt markets, risk models, ESG trends, AI and banking, even digital banking in the Middle East. They're putting out insights across the board. But, it's not just about the markets and business insights. Their corporate social responsibility, the CSR stuff, seems to be making a real tangible impact, too.
That's an important dimension. What are some examples there?
Well, the CRISIL Foundation runs a program called Main Pragati. It's reached over 4.5 lakhs, so 450,000 marginalized community members in Assam and Rajasthan, focusing on financial skills and empowerment. And they're also heavily involved in the RBI's Center for Financial Literacy project, the CFL project. They have, I think, 669 centers now, reaching over 20 lakh or 2 million people across 13 states and 4 union territories. It's a massive effort in building financial capability from the ground up.
Wow, that's significant scale.
Yeah.
And environmental efforts, too.
Yep. They had a campaign called #Pens of Promise, involved crafting over 1,700 pens from handmade paper, diverting waste. And they also planted 71,000 saplings. So it really does seem like a holistic approach, strong financial performance balanced with these broader societal and environmental contributions.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for you, our listener. CRISIL's Q2 2025 performance, it really shows remarkable financial resilience, doesn't it? Especially given all those global uncertainties we talked about.
It really does. And their continued growth seems clearly driven by those strategic investments, technology, talent, plus a strong, evolving brand, and of course, deep market insights across all their different business segments.
Right. It feels like they're not just, crunching numbers and reporting data. They're actively shaping how the market understands things, and they're also making a positive impact in communities. So here's maybe a final provocative thought for you to consider. How does a company like CRISIL, with such deep connections to both global economics and detailed financial analytics, manage to not just survive, but actually thrive and spot these emerging opportunities when things are slowing down globally? What can you maybe learn from their approach? That balance between core business strength, investing in innovation, leading the conversation, and fulfilling social responsibilities.
Yeah.
How might that help you navigate your own complex world and find your next opportunity?